We love to dive deep into all things AI, right? All those algorithms, the data, the possibilities. Well, what if AI could tap into something even more human? Like, what about storytelling? What about imagination?
I mean, that's a fascinating area. This whole idea of AI agents being able to take on different roles, almost like actors in a super immersive play. We're talking about role-playing AI. And it's powered by those large language models, those LLMs you always hear about.
And you gave us a ton of material for this deep dive, a whole research overview paper, plus a whole bunch of discussions that you pulled from online forums. I guess we're going to try to unpack all of that, right? We look at how this technology evolved, how it actually works, and then, of course, where it's all headed. But first, before we get too far, can we trace this whole idea back a little bit? I mean, role-playing itself isn't new at all, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, humans have been role-playing literally for centuries. Think about all those games they use for training in businesses. Even in medical education, it helps people learn to step into different shoes.
Oh, yeah. Like those simulations where med students can practice how to diagnose a virtual patient, so there's no real-world risk involved.
Exactly. And early role-playing AI, that's kind of what it tried to mimic, like those simple chatbots that focused on being able to keep a consistent persona. But then LLMs came along, and they completely changed the game because suddenly AI could create these complex characters that felt so much more dynamic.
So instead of just spitting out those same old pre-programmed responses, the AI could actually adapt to the situation, keep the conversation going in a way that felt much more nuanced, almost like it's improvising. Right.
You got it. Okay, but let's take a closer look at how this all works. Under the hood, you have these things called role-playing language agents, or PLAs. And those are basically the brains of the whole operation.
RPLAs. Okay, break it down for me. What makes those different from just a regular old chatbot?
Well, RPLAs, they're not just about reacting to whatever you say. They actually have these key modules. You've got memory planning and action, and that lets them actively engage in whatever scenario is going on. So picture an AI agent that can remember your past conversations. It can make strategic decisions. It can even use tools in a virtual environment.
Wow, that's wild. So it's not just responding to me, it's actually doing things. So, I'm really fascinated by the future of education. Are there any really interesting ways that this role-playing AI is being used to help people learn?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine this. Instead of those boring old lectures, you could actually practice real-world skills, like how to negotiate or how to deal with conflict. And you do it with these AI agents acting as your colleagues or clients.
So it's like having a personal training simulation that's customized for you, so you could practice tough conversations or complex situations, but you're in a safe environment.
Exactly. And one really interesting example is in medical training. Researchers are looking at how to use AI to simulate patient interactions. That way, med students could practice their diagnostic skills. They could even work on their bedside manner. And they'd be doing it with virtual patients. It's safer. And they get feedback right away.
That is so cool. It's like having a virtual mentor, someone who can give you guidance. And it's personalized. But it's not just education, right? What are some other areas where this role-playing AI is starting to make a real impact?
Oh, it's popping up everywhere. Take customer service. Companies are using AI agents to simulate those tricky customer interactions. The ones we all have to deal with sometimes. And it helps train customer service reps. So they learn how to handle different personalities and those really complicated situations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Instead of just throwing new reps in and hoping they swim, they can actually get real experience, build their confidence, and they do it by interacting with these AI customers.
Right, and that leads to more efficient customer service, and hopefully customer service that's more pleasant for everyone.
It's a win-win, right? Reps get better at their jobs, and customers get faster service, hopefully better service.
Now let's think about sales and marketing.
Ooh, that's a good one. AI could really shake things up there. Tell me more.
Imagine AI being able to help sales teams so they can get better at their pitches, learn how to handle those objections. By being able to simulate those real-world sales interactions, AI could really give them an edge. And they could boost customer engagement and close more deals.
It's like having this super-powered sales coach, analyzing your every move and giving you feedback. But what about healthcare? I feel like the potential for role-playing AI in healthcare is just massive.
It really is. Think about it. AI can simulate interactions with patients. It gives healthcare professionals this safe space to practice making diagnoses. They can work on delivering empathetic cares. They can even rehearse having those difficult conversations. The ones that could be so emotionally draining.
This all sounds really promising. But you know me, I always want to dig a little deeper. What are some of the things that AI role-playing can do better than traditional methods? Like, what are the problems that AI can solve?
That's a great question. When you think about traditional ways of role-playing, things like cost and scalability, those are huge limitations, like getting a lot of people together for some specialized training, especially in fields like medicine or high-stakes negotiation. I mean, it's super expensive, and logistically, it's just a nightmare. AI can make it much more accessible and efficient.
So it's like democratizing role playing, right? It opens it up to so many more people in a way that's affordable and honestly, a lot less intimidating for some people. But let's be real, this technology has to have some limitations, right? What are some of the things developers are still trying to figure out?
Well, of course, one of the big ones is natural language processing. LLMs have made some amazing progress, but they still have trouble with the nuances of human language.
So things like sarcasm, humor, even just understanding what we mean, depending on the situation, that can still trip up AI.
Exactly. It might misunderstand something you say, or it might give a response that's just totally awkward because it doesn't get what you really meant.
I get it. So what other limitations should we know about?
Well, another big challenge is being able to stay consistent over a long conversation. Sometimes the AI forgets details from earlier on, or maybe it contradicts itself, and that can really take you out of the moment.
It's like you're watching a movie and suddenly a character does something that makes no sense. You're like, wait, did I miss something? Or did the writers just totally drop the ball here?
Exactly. It ruins the experience. And then there's the problem of repetitive responses. AI agents can get stuck, repeating phrases or falling into patterns.
It starts to feel like you're talking to one of those old chatbots with a limited set of responses, and it gets old fast.
Exactly. And there are a few reasons for all these limitations. Maybe the AI's responses are being overregulated to make sure it stays safe, or maybe it just hasn't been trained on enough data. Enough data to understand all the ways humans actually communicate.
It sounds like there's still a lot of work to do to really make this technology shine, but clearly there are already companies out there who are doing some impressive things, right?
Absolutely. There's this whole ecosystem of companies and developers working on this. One company I've been keeping an eye on is Latitude.io.
Latitude.io. Okay, what do they focus on?
They're all about AI-powered world building. They're using those generative AI models to create these amazingly detailed virtual environments.
So it's like you're stepping into a whole other world. But instead of using a VR headset, it's all AI. That's amazing. What about other companies? Are there others doing similar things, innovating in the world of role-playing AI?
Oh, there are tons. Another one that comes to mind is virtual speech. They're helping people get over their fear of public speaking, and they do it through these AI-powered training simulations.
I love that. I could have used that back in college.
Totally. It's like having a personal speech coach, available 24/7, helping you practice and giving you feedback, building your confidence.
And what about Second Nature? I think you mentioned them earlier.
Oh yeah, Second Nature is all about sales training. They use AI. They create these hyper-realistic simulations of customer interactions so sales rep can practice. Practice handling objections and figuring out how to fine-tune their pitches.
Oh, so it's like those mock sales calls, but with AI, that can really challenge you.
You got it. It's all about giving sales professionals a safe way to practice their skills, to prepare for those pressure situations.
This is where things get really interesting for me. You mentioned earlier that open source projects are also playing a role in all of this. Can you tell me more about that?
Of course, one of the most exciting things about this whole area is the open source community. It's like this global think tank. You've got developers from all over the world, and they're contributing their ideas, building tools, sharing what they know.
I love that. It's like everyone gets a chance to be a part of it, to help this technology evolve.
Exactly. And it's leading to some really innovative things. One project that's really cool is called Autogen.
Autogen, what is it?
It's basically a framework that you can use to build all kinds of LLM applications, including those multi-agent conversations. So if you're a developer and you want to create a system where a bunch of AI agents can talk to each other, Autogen can help you do that.
So it's like creating a whole virtual world where AI characters can have their own conversations, their own relationships, maybe even their own little dramas unfolding.
Precisely. It opens up all kinds of possibilities. You can make role-playing so much more dynamic and unpredictable. And then there's Fadata. They're focused on building AI assistants that have a long-term memory, they have contextual knowledge, and they can actually take action.
So they're not like those chatbots that forget what you just said 2 minutes ago. They actually remember stuff, and they use that information to give you better responses.
Exactly. It's all about creating AI companions that are more advanced, ones that can learn and adapt to your needs over time.
Wow, that's really impressive. You also mentioned Crew AI. What's their deal?
Crew AI is a framework. It's for orchestrating those role-playing autonomous AI agents, the ones we talked about earlier.
It's like a conductor leading an orchestra, but instead of musicians, it's AI agents all working together to achieve some goal.
That's a great way to put it. And then you have OpenRPG AI Adventure Kit. That one's a toolkit. It's for creating those immersive RPGs, the ones that are powered by AI. You mentioned those before.
Oh, so it's like a dream come true for any game developer who wants to create their own world, their own RPG world that's powered by AI.
Totally. And one of the best things about all these open source projects is that they just keep evolving. People keep contributing new code and ideas. It's a really vibrant community.
It's like a giant brainstorming session where everyone's working together to push the limits of what AI can do.
Absolutely. And it's not just developers who are involved. There are all these amazing online communities where people are sharing their own experiences with AI, their ideas, even the challenges they're facing.
It's like a virtual water cooler, right? People can chat about the latest stuff going on, share their wins and fails, maybe even get some inspiration for their own projects. So what are some of the communities that are really driving these conversations?
Well, one platform that's super popular is Reddit. They have subreddits like Relearning and Our Character AI.
Ah, Reddit. It's a gold mine of interesting discussions. What kinds of things are people talking about?
You'll find everything from discussions about how to use this technology in education to stories about people's weird or funny interactions with AI characters. It's a great place to get a sense of what's happening in the community.
I bet. What about forums that are more for gaming? I'm curious about how people are using AI to make their role-playing experiences better.
There are tons of those too. One that's really active is the RPG Codex forum. It's all about AI and tabletop RPGs.
Tabletop RPGs. Oh, you mean those classic pen and paper games that have been around forever?
Those are the ones. This forum is awesome if you want to see how people are using AI to breathe new life into those games. You can have more dynamic storylines, more believable characters. It can even help take some of the workload off the game master.
It's like taking those old school games and giving them this futuristic twist. With AI, that's really cool. What about online games? Are there any forums for those?
Oh, there are so many. The Homecoming Servers forum is a good one. They talk about AI tools you can use for role-playing in online games.
Oh, wow. So we're talking games like World of Warcraft, right? And EverQuest, those massively multiplayer online games where people create their own characters and stories in this virtual world.
Exactly. This forum is all about how to use AI to create NPCs that are more realistic and responsive. And they even talk about how AI can help players come up with better storylines for their characters.
It's like taking those online games we love and making them even more immersive, even more engaging. And it's all thanks to AI.
That's the idea. And one more forum worth checking out is the World of Warcraft forums. People there specifically talk about using AI for role-playing in that game.
World of Warcraft, that sounds a classic. So what are some of the ways people are using AI in World of Warcraft?
Oh, there are so many things. Some people are using AI tools to help them write better dialogue for their characters. And then there are mods that create opponents that are more realistic and harder to beat.
So it's like taking one of the most popular online games and supercharging the role-playing experience. With AI, it's really cool to see how gamers all over the world are embracing this technology.
It is, and all these forums just show how much passion there is for role-playing AI. It's not just some abstract concept. It's something that real people are excited about. They're using it, experimenting with it every single day.
Yeah, it's like a community that's constantly growing and evolving, and they're always pushing the boundaries of what AI can do.
That's it. And it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the conversations that are happening around it, all that energy and discussion.
And I bet those online conversations are going to play a huge role in how this technology develops in the future.
I totally agree. Those are the spaces where we'll grapple with the ethics of it all. We'll talk about the risks and benefits, and ultimately we'll figure out how we want to use this powerful technology in our lives.
Well, hold on. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about those ethical questions you mentioned. Because as AI gets better at mimicking human behavior and emotions, it brings up all sorts of questions, right?
Definitely. And that's a conversation that deserves its own deep dive.
For sure. Let's save that for part 2. But first, I want to learn more about those online communities and the role they're playing in shaping this whole thing. Because it's not just casual conversations, right?
Right. Those communities are where the really important discussions about the future of this tech are happening.
Okay, you've got me hooked. Let's dive into that in part 3.
It really is amazing how those online communities are almost like this living lab for role-playing AI.
Right. They're not just talking about it, they're actually shaping it. But before we get into that, I'm still thinking about something you mentioned earlier, this whole thing about AI being able to simulate human emotions.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, that question's been around forever, right? Can machines actually understand human emotions? Can they respond to them?
And now, with this role-playing AI getting so advanced, it feels like we're stepping into that sci-fi world, where you can't tell the AI companions from the real people.
It's definitely getting blurry. I remember you were telling me about some of the debates you saw happening in those online forums while you were prepping for this. What were people saying?
Well, there are some people who are completely convinced that it's just a matter of time, before AI can actually decode human emotions. and then respond in a way that feels genuine.
I can see how people would think that. AI is already processing mountains of data, like text and images, and all of that stuff contains emotional cues. So as natural language processing and machine learning keep getting better, it's not hard to imagine AI getting really good at recognizing and responding to those cues.
Yeah, but then there's the other side, the people who think that true emotional understanding is something that's just human, that AI will never be able to replicate it.
And they have a point. Human emotions are messy, they're complicated, they're influenced by our own personal experiences, our culture, our biology. It's a lot to ask of AI to really get all of that.
It's like expecting a computer to know what it's like to fall in love or experience grief. Those are things that are deeply personal and subjective.
Exactly, and that's where the limits of AI really show up. AI might be able to spot patterns in data, patterns that suggest certain emotions, but the AI itself, it doesn't actually feel those emotions.
It's like the difference between reading about a sunset and seeing one in person. You can read about the colors, you can read about the way the light looks, but you won't get that feeling of awe. You know, the one you get when you're actually there experiencing it.
That's such a good analogy. So maybe AI can simulate emotions based on the patterns it learns, but some people argue that it'll never truly understand them, not the way humans do.
But even if AI can only simulate emotions, it could still change the way we interact with tech, right?
Absolutely. Remember those customer service bots we were talking about? What if they could tell when a customer's frustrated? Even if they don't actually feel empathy, if they could at least respond in a way that makes sense, it could change everything about customer service.
Yeah, it's like the difference between talking to a brick wall and talking to someone who's at least trying to get you, even if they don't fully understand.
Right? And think about education or healthcare. Imagine an AI tutor that could tell if a student is struggling and then change its teaching style. That was a huge.
Or what about an AI therapy app, something that could give people a safe place to talk about their mental health? Even if the empathy is simulated, it could still be helpful.
For sure. And that's why this whole debate about AI and emotions is so important. It's not about AI becoming human. It's about using what AI can do to make our own human experiences better.
I like that. It's like AI is a tool. It can help us understand ourselves better, even if it doesn't understand us in the same way that another person would.
Yeah, I like that. It's about augmentation, not replacement. We don't need AI to replace human connection or empathy, but it can definitely help us. It can support us.
Well, I'm excited to see where all of this goes. I think as AI keeps developing, this whole debate about emotions is just going to get more interesting and more complicated.
I agree. It's something we have to keep talking about, and we have to be thoughtful about it. And speaking of shaping the future of AI, those open source projects and online communities are doing such important work.
Yeah, it's like we're democratizing AI development. Instead of just a few big companies controlling it, it's this open space where anyone can jump in, experiment, push the boundaries.
That open source approach is so important. We have to make sure that the development of AI is transparent, that it's accessible, that we're getting different perspective.
It's like the difference between a walled garden and a public park. The walled garden only lets a few people in, but in the public park, everyone's welcome to come in and make it even better.
I love that analogy. And that open source approach is leading to some really cool stuff.
Like what? Tell me more. I love hearing about all the cool new stuff happening in AI.
Well, one area that's super interesting is the development of all these tools and frameworks. Tools that make it easier for people to create their own AI-powered role-playing experiences. We talked about a few earlier. But let's go a little deeper.
I'm all ears. It's like giving people the building blocks and saying, okay, go build something, anything you can imagine. It's awesome.
It is, and that's exactly what these open source projects are doing. One really cool project is OpenAI Gym.
OpenAI Gym. Intriguing. What is it?
So basically, it's a toolkit. It's for developing reinforcement learning algorithms and for comparing them. It gives you all these environments and tasks that you can use to train and test your AI agents.
Oh, so if you're a developer and you're trying to build an AI that can play a game or solve a really complex problem, OpenAI Gym is like the perfect playground to do that.
Exactly. And the best part is that it's open source, so anyone can add new environments or tasks. It's constantly changing and growing because of the AI community.
So it's like this massive sandbox where people who love AI can experiment and learn from each other, and they can just keep pushing the limits of what's possible.
And then there's ParlAI. It stands for Platform for Open Domain Dialogue AI.
ParlAI. What's that one all about?
That one's a framework, and it's specifically for training and evaluating dialogue models. It gives you this one interface you can use to access all these different data sets and tasks. So it's easier for researchers to compare different approaches and then share what they've learned.
So if you're a researcher who's really into creating AI that can have a natural conversation, a conversation that's engaging, ParlAI gives you the tools to make that happen.
Right, and it's not just for text either. ParlAI can handle multimodal dialogue. That means you can use images, videos, all kinds of media.
So you could have an AI that not only understands what you're saying, but it can also read your facial expressions and your gestures. That's like straight out of a sci-fi movie, where humans and AI are just interacting like it's no big deal.
It is. And then there's this one with the best name ever, Hugging Face Transformers.
Hugging face transformers. Okay, I have to hear more about this. It sounds like a character from a Pixar movie.
Right. But don't let the name fool you. This thing is powerful. It's a library. And it has all these pre-trained models you can use for a ton of natural language processing tasks. And these models, they're built on the transformer architecture. And that has completely changed NLP.
So if you're building an AI that can understand human language and generate it, Hugging Face Transformers can give you a huge advantage.
Totally. And since these models are already pre-trained on huge data sets, they can do some pretty amazing things right out of the box. With just a little bit of fine tuning, it's like having this whole team of language experts working behind the scenes.
That's incredible. It seems like the open source community is really making these powerful AI tools available to everyone. But with all this talk about tools and frameworks, I have a question. What about the stuff that's actually happening in these role-playing experiences, like the storylines and the characters? Where did those come from?
That's a great question. Some developers are creating those storylines and characters themselves, just like traditional game designers. But some of them are using AI to help them come up with the content.
Wait, AI is writing stories and designing characters? That sounds like something out of a science fiction book.
It might sound futuristic, but it's happening right now. And these aren't just your basic random text generators. We're talking about AI systems that have been trained on mountain of data, existing stories, scripts, character descriptions.
So they're learning from the best of the best. They're looking at what makes a story good, what makes a character interesting, and then they use that to create their own stuff.
You got it. It's still a pretty new field, but there's already some amazing stuff coming out of it, like this AI system called GPT-3. It's been getting a lot of attention because it can write some seriously realistic stuff, and it's creative too.
GPT-3, yeah, I've heard of that one. It's been writing everything. Poems, code, even news articles that sound like a human wrote them.
Exactly. And even though GPT-3 wasn't built specifically for role-playing AI, people are definitely starting to use it that way. Imagine using GPT-3 to create storylines that change based on what the player does, or to create those non-player characters with unique personalities and backstories.
It's like having an AI writing partner, someone who's always brainstorming new ideas, helping you flesh out your stories, and keeping things interesting with all those plot twists. It would take role-playing games to a whole new level.
It would. And GPT-3 is just the beginning. There are other AI systems that can create images and music and even 3D environments.
Whoa, so you could create a whole experience for the player, one that hits all the senses, and it's all customized based on what they like and what they choose to do? That's insane.
It is pretty mind-blowing. As these systems keep getting better, we're going to see even more creative and engaging role-playing experiences. It's a good time to be a gamer, or a storyteller, or anyone who's excited about AI.
I agree, but with AI creating all this content, it makes you wonder, what does this mean for human creativity? Are we going to be out of a job as storytellers and game designers? Should I be worried?
That's a question I think a lot of people are asking, and it makes sense. But I don't think we need to be afraid of AI taking over our jobs anytime soon.
Okay, good. Give me some hope here. I'm not ready to hand over my creative control to robots just yet.
Think about it this way. AI can take care of those boring, repetitive tasks, the ones that suck up all your creative energy.
So like writing the first draft of a story, or sketching out some basic characters, or even just filling in some of the dialogue.
Exactly. AI can handle that stuff. That frees us up to focus on the parts of storytelling and game design that really need that human touch. Things like making characters feel real, giving the story emotional depth. You know, those unexpected moments that make a story really stick with you? That's where humans shine.
So we should look at AI as a tool, not a threat, something that can make us even more creative.
Right. It's about working together, not one replacing the other. It's about figuring out how humans and AI can team up to create something truly amazing.
It's like a symphony orchestra. The AI is playing the instruments, but it's the human conductor who's really in control. They shape the music, they bring the emotion, and they bring it all together into something beautiful.
I love that. That's a perfect way to describe it. And that's the key to making AI really work for us. In storytelling, in game design, it's not about one taking over. It's about finding ways for both to shine.
You mentioned earlier that online communities are super important for shaping the future of role-playing AI. It's not just about showing off cool projects or sharing stories. They're actually having some really important conversations.
Right. They are. And that's what we're going to talk about next.
So we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about all the tech behind role-playing AI. We talked about the companies that are really innovating in this space. And we even got into some of the big philosophical questions, about AI and emotions. But I keep coming back to those online communities, the fact that they're actually driving the evolution of this technology.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? They're like this hub of innovation and critical thinking. They're not just sitting back and watching. They're really shaping the direction of role-playing AI.
And one of the most important things they're doing is tackling those ethical implications.
Right? Absolutely. As AI gets more sophisticated, as it becomes more integrated into our lives, we have to talk about the ethics of it all. And these online communities are where those conversations are happening.
It's like we're crowdsourcing ethics for the age of AI. You have developers, researchers, gamers, ethicists, all these different perspectives coming together to figure out these really important questions.
Exactly. And it's not just hypothetical stuff either. People are actually sharing their real-world experiences with role-playing AI. And that's super valuable.
So it's like a giant feedback loop. People are trying out the technology, they're seeing what works and what doesn't, and then they're sharing that information with everyone.
That's it. And that feedback is so important for the developers, the ones who are actually building these systems. It helps them avoid problems, anticipate potential issues, and ultimately create better AI.
It's like having this global team of beta testers. They're giving constant feedback, insights, suggestions.
Perfect analogy. And that's the power of these online communities. They're not just watching from the sidelines. They're actively involved. They're shaping how this technology develops.
And that's really exciting when you think about it. It's not just a few big companies calling all the shots. It's a much more open process.
I agree. And I think that's how it has to be. If we want role-playing AI to benefit everyone, not just a select few.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this fascinating world of role-playing AI, what's the one big thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the most important thing to remember is that this is all still very new. This technology is evolving so fast, and the possibilities are really endless. But it's up to us. We have to guide its development and make sure it's ethical, responsible, and benefits humanity as a whole.
It's like we're standing at the edge of this new frontier, and it's exciting and a little scary at the same time.
I know what you mean, but that's what makes it so interesting. We have the chance to be a part of something big, something that could really change things. And those online communities, I think they're going to be really important for helping us navigate all of this.
I think so too. So to our listener, if you're interested in this stuff, stay curious, stay involved, and don't be afraid to join those online communities. Your voice matters. You can be a part of shaping the future of role-playing AI.
And with that, it's time for us to sign off. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of role-playing AI. Until next time, keep exploring.